Hi, guys. Wait 1 second. Hi, guys. How's it going? Welcome in here to Rover Sports. And we're officially, I believe, ready to get started. 1 second, please. And we're going to talk all about the Giants today. Just titling the video. Okay. I believe that we are now ready to begin the show. And here we go. Okay, welcome into Rover Sports. We are here today sitting on November 6th of 2017, and the culture of the New York Giants is officially dead. The season of the New York Football Giants was one that had a lot of promise from a lot of outsiders. I was more skeptical on this season. I think that this year is more painful because a lot of people assumed that this team would come in and be capable of winning at a high level instantly, or would just take over from where they left off last year. But when you dig into the season and you start to look at everything that has occurred, things do make sense on a certain level. When you look at last year's team with the New York Giants, they were a team that lost to the Redskins in brutal fashion. So they start off 2-0. They lost to the Redskins, and then they went to Minnesota last year and played played a terrible Monday Night Football game in which, other than a Paul Perkins screen pass, the Vikings dominated them in every facet of the game. And the Giants then went to 2-2. Then they went to Green Bay, and a Green Bay defense that was susceptible in the passing game. The Packers manhandled the Giants that night. And it was a Sunday night game in Lambeau Field, and it wasn't even close. It was 17-3. It was an awful, awful performance. Then the Giants were then sitting at 2-3. They were losing in the fourth quarter to the Baltimore Ravens when Eli happened to hit Odell Beckham on 4th and 5. And that changed the season dramatically. It wasn't a miraculous win versus Baltimore, but it was a game last year in which the team wasn't that great, but they happened to beat the Ravens, and it was a momentum-changing win in the season. It was a really nice win. The offense and the passing game was clutch late in the game. I'll give them that. They went to London and they played poorly again, but they played Jeff Fisher and Case Keenum. So the Giants were able to win that game and get to 4-3 before the bye week. They then played an Eagles team that was young, had Nigel Bradham just get arrested in an airport, had Joshua Huff driving 105 miles per hour over a bridge, smoking pot, and he was cut from the Eagles, so there was a lot of turbulence for the Eagles. It was a young Eagles team with a rookie head coach that didn't know what they were doing yet, and the Eagles came out and they shat the bed versus the Giants and allowed the Giants to get up 14-0. Carson Wentz was erratic. Aguilar was erratic at that time, and the Giants benefited from a great start. Eli played his best game of the year, and Sterling Shepard had late plays, and it was an immature Eagles team that the Giants beat, and it helped because the Eagles were disastrous to start that game. So then the Giants were 5-3. They then played a Bengals team that didn't make the playoffs, and they barely won that game, and it was ugly as well. 21-19, Giants beat the Bengals. Really ugly football, timely fourth quarter football. They then, after that, they played Chicago. They played the Bears with Jay Cutler when Jay Cutler was, going off on his. Jay Cutler was cut from the Bears. John Fox and Cutler didn't get along. That was a horrible situation, and the Bears were atrocious last year. And the Giants only put up, I believe, 17 points in that game, but the Bears defense shut out the Giants in the first half of that game. So let's look at the Giants' offensive totals during their 6-game win streak. And then they played the Browns, and they got a defensive touchdown from Olivier Vernon in that game, 24 to about 10, but the game was a lot closer. So during the 6-game winning streak that propelled the Giants into the playoffs, they went out and they had a good game versus Baltimore. I'll give them that. They scored about 27 points with Ben McAdoo. Then they went to London and the Rams defense held them the entire game. They got a pick six, so they only scored 10 points on Jeff Fisher's Rams in London to win that game. Then they went and they played the Eagles, and they did have a good offensive output, so that's 2 games. They played well versus the Eagles on offense and put up, I believe, 31 points. Then after the Eagles game, which again, the Eagles spotted them short fields the entire game, from that point on, Bengals 21, Bears 17, and the Browns 21, and they were awful offensively in all those games. Last game of the season versus the Redskins, they scored about 17. The Dallas game, the defense played the greatest game, one of the greatest defensive efforts that I've ever seen watching the Giants play against the Cowboys. So there you go. There's your 11-win season. How many points did they score versus the Saints in week 2? About maybe 16 points. What is the problem? Defense is caught up to Ben McAdoo. The offense was awful all along. Steve Spagnuolo was incredible. The free agents that Jerry Reese acquired were awesome. Even though people hate Jerry Reese, they refuse to admit that every signing he made the defense from one of the worst defenses in NFL history the year prior to then being a top 3 defense in the NFL. Landon Collins came together. Janoris played awesome. Vernon was there. Pierre-Paul was there. Casillas contributed. Everybody contributed to that team. What happened this year? They insert Eli Apple into a more prominent role. He falters. He falls flat on his face. He regresses badly. Olivier Vernon and Landon Collins, there's leadership issues with this ball club. That's the problem with this football team, and that is why the New York Giants are struggling on the defensive side of the football. Well, let me rephrase that. I butchered that statement. The Giants defense hasn't been all that bad this year. Yesterday, the team quit. It was an atrocious effort yesterday. No reasonable person would say that. But you look at the Giants this year in Dallas, they held the Cowboys to, 20 points, 17 points? The defense kept them in the game again when the offense couldn't stay on the field for 1 second of that football game. Then against the Lions, I'm going to throw up some highlights from the Lions game right here for you guys. The Giants held the Lions to 24 points. There were turnovers. The offense was downright ugly and awful during that game. The Lions got short fields in that football game, so the Lions were able to cash in. In fact, wow, is this a touchdown? Yeah, so the defense only allowed, 17 points? I know Eli Apple has been awful. Lions and Cowboys wasn't bad. The Eagles game, the Giants held the Eagles in check for 3 quarters and on a 100-degree day, and then the Eagles got going in the fourth quarter of that game. Okay, so the defense wasn't even that bad versus Philly. It was awful down the stretch. Again, Eli Apple made some horrible plays during that football game. Even DRC, the secondary messed up towards the end. I'll give him that. But again, the offense can't hold the football at all. Things are going to happen when you can't hold the football and you're going hurry-up offense, which they did. Where Philly, against Tampa Bay, the team, morale-wise, was starting to unwind. Cameron Brate killed the Giants. Late in that game, they couldn't stop them. The defense there, finally, I will say the Giants' defense wildered, and I would give them like a C or a C- for their performance versus Tampa Bay. They were downright poor in the passing game. But you look at this defense this year, and it has been okay. It has been decently good. The Broncos game was good. The Chargers game, the Giants gave them short fields. The Seattle game, they came up with a goal line stop versus a prolific attack with Russell Wilson, okay? Then the defense fell off. So it's mental. It's not a talent issue with this defense. The defense was there all of last year. You can't just abandon the talent that you put into the defensive side of the football. You can't just abandon Landon Collins, Olivier Vernon, JPP, Casillas, guys in the linebacking core like BJ Goodson is really going to be a player when he gets healthy. Janoris Jenkins is a superstar player. Same with DRC. You cannot just quit on this defense, okay? It's all a coaching thing. It's all coaching that can fix this defense. Now you look at the offensive side of the football, what is going to be there next season. What I think the Giants should do, what I think that they should really do, if I were the Giants again, is I would get rid of Odell Beckham and I would trade him to the Tennessee Titans. I would trade Beckham to Tennessee because Tennessee has 2 Pro Bowl caliber linemen, one that you liked a lot in Jack Conklin, the other in Taylor Lewan. That is a terrific personality, attitude guy that can rally. You add Lewan, I would trade for in a second. So you get Lewan in there, or you get Conklin, and you send Tennessee a tremendous weapon to replace Eric Decker to try to grow with, Corey Davis down there. You have Delaney Walker and Odell Beckham. I think you would fit in well with Marcus Mariota in that system. I know that Mike Mularkey might not see eye to eye. He's an old school mentality coach, but I'd at least call John Robinson and see if he's interested in that trade. Or I would trade Beckham maybe to the Niners or Cleveland to try to get Staley or try to get Joe Thomas. So that's what I would do immediately. I would try to get that deal done or trade Beckham for a pick because Beckham, the Miami trip derailed the team. The Giants should be done with the culture of apathy that Beckham has set out for this team. He has too much power within this locker room. His problems outweigh his talents, and you need to be seamless and get rid of Odell Beckham. He is not a terrible person. He hasn't committed any crimes, but in terms of the culture, it is not helping out the Giants' culture. So that's why Beckham is gone. Then you shift your attack to something that Eli Manning is comfortable with. Eli Manning is a quarterback that you need to keep around. I heard a lot of sports radio today, Shock Jock Radio, which is totally fine because all radio and all purposes should be entertaining, should be shock jock on some level. But today, a lot of people were talking about Eli Manning and how he should go to Jacksonville or Denver to end his career like Peyton Manning did, like his brother, or go help out a Jacksonville defense and reunite with Tom Coughlin. None of those things should happen or going to happen, okay, period, okay? I couldn't even fathom how devastating that would be, because when you're a franchise that was in the playoffs last year, first of all, you can't be an impulsive franchise. The impulsive franchises don't win in the NFL. The Browns that draft a quarterback and a coach every year, Patine, Shermer, Mangini, Hugh Jackson, Kaiser, Whedon, Manziel, Quinn, Brady Quinn, those teams don't win when you're changing a quarterback every year. Same with the Niners changing head coaches and quarterbacks in the past couple of years. You cannot be a franchise that is a revolving door at that position. And Eli has been with the Giants. He is a staple of the team. He has talent. He has enough arm talent to win a championship. He knows what it's like to go through the gauntlet, and this is a defense that's ready to win a championship, and Eli Manning's a championship quarterback. Sterling Shepard can grow into a really good wide receiver. I would get rid of Marshall. I think, again, his problems outweigh his talents, so get rid of Marshall. Let Evan Ingram have a pronounced role. Turn him into a Pro Bowl tight end. Give him plenty of touches. You can draft a wide receiver in this draft, maybe a kid out of Ole Miss or an LSU wide receiver. You can then go and try to get, I believe, Darius Geis and linemen. And your offense then will be complete, and the Giants will be looking at a schedule next year that's a last place schedule, which means the Giants will be playing the worst team in their divisions every single week that it's possible. And the Giants' schedule, there haven't been many cupcakes. The Rams this year, the Seattle Seahawks this year, going to Tampa Bay when Tampa Bay was still a team that had hope and belief, playing the Eagles on the road. The Lions were really hot at the beginning of the season, and then playing a fully healthy Dallas Cowboys team, going to Denver, playing the Chargers on the road. The Chargers aren't as bad as the record indicates. They've lost a lot of close games, and the Giants are right there with them. The Giants really haven't had any cupcakes on the schedule, and next year with the last place schedule, the schedule will sit better with the Giants. This is a retool and not a rebuilding situation for this team, for the New York Giants. And my head coaching candidates that I would look at, I think that John Harbaugh is going to be dismissed by the Baltimore Ravens. His time there is wore thin. He hasn't made the postseason in a while. Things are stale in Baltimore. So John Harbaugh is a great option for the Giants. He comes in, he's won a Super Bowl. You won't miss a beat with him. He would be, I think, option number one. Option number two is Matt Cavanaugh of the LA Rams, who is with Sean McVay and has a very good offense. Number three is Scott Linehan of the Dallas Cowboys, who has a run-based offense with Jason Garrett. You can go ahead and try to hire I might have misspoke on Matt Cavanaugh. I think the guy that the Giants would like is Matt LaFleur from the Rams. I believe it's LaFleur. Then you look at another coach that I'd have, and Linehan would be a guy I would interview. So you have Harbaugh, LaFleur. LaFleur could be a really good name. Linehan. Then I look at a couple of guys that I would come in just for a short while to help. I think that Wade Phillips and Leslie Frazier are two guys that could come in and immediately restore order with the Giants, but they would be towards the back end of my list. You could look at a guy like Scott Frost, who's great in college, but he's never been at the NFL level before. That would be a risky move. Or a Bob Stoops. Those are two moves that, again, are risky. And then a guy I failed to mention, a guy who would be in my top three guys, I actually forgot to mention him, is David Shaw of Stanford. That is a very, very realistic option. So let's list maybe the top four. I'm going to go and Gruden, but I think Gruden's going to go to college, go to Tennessee. So this is definite, or Cowher, but I don't think Cowher is leaving either. So let me list the realistic top four options at head coach. John Harbaugh, at 1. Matt LaFleur from the LA Rams, tremendous offense. Scott Linehan. And then let's go David Shaw. So those are the 4 guys that I believe have an opportunity to coach this Giants team next year. Retool, don't rebuild. Keep Jerry Reese there. Keep him. Keep the defense intact. You don't need to reinvent the wheel to be successful. The Giants don't need a total rebuild. They just need a new coach. Look at Jeff Fisher. Look how the Rams lost 50-7 to the Atlanta Falcons last year. The Patriots beat them 28-0. Jared Goff looked incompetent. Todd Gurley called it a high school offense. Everybody wanted Les Snead gone. Everybody wanted this Rams team totally. The Rams team looked awful. They had a lot of the same players. They had Ogletree, Tremaine Johnson. They had a lot of guys. They had Higbee. They had Jared Goff, Todd Gurley. They had John Sullivan. They had the same cast as they had this year on a 6-2 team. And the world was falling last year around the LA Rams, but they got in a head coach. They went and got veteran leadership with Wade Phillips. They went and signed a veteran offensive lineman in Andrew Whitworth. They kept a lot of their offensive weapons. In the draft, they selected Gerald Everett and Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp is a nice addition to this Rams team. They got Connor Barwin, continued to get veterans, and instead of backing down, rebuilding, saying they need to draft a quarterback, let's go put guys on free agency, let's not sign Ogletree, let's move on from Mark Barron and moves, the Rams just held course, stayed the course. When the world was falling around them, they held course. And that's what the Giants need to do now. They need to realize that they're not as far. Things are not always as damp and dark and bleak as it seems. And things aren't always as optimistic and, sunflower seeds as they can be. And the Giants last year going into this offseason, people thought playoff team, great defense. Odell Beckham's coming back. You add, the Clemson kids of Goodson and Wayne Gallman, Evan Ingram. The team was a paper tiger team, okay? People just play fantasy football now, and I totally get it. A lot of people just watch professional football just so that they can play their friends and analyze wide receivers and things. But that isn't how it works. And in fact, the Panthers won their game without Kelvin Benjamin. The Bills are doing fine without Sammy Watkins. So it's not always just a fantasy football league. And the Giants are playing fantasy football. And teams and the pundits, they might not analyze every Giants game as closely as some Giants fans do. And I just laid out exactly why this team failed and how last year was a mirage. And how Ben McAdoo, NFL's figured him out. He is dead in the water. He is totally done. He had no words for his press conference, no words for the halftime speech. It's a formality. I get him out. Because the longer you keep him here, the longer that the media is going to pile on, the longer that guys that are talents are going to rebel from you, like Janoris, like DRC. You need to look after these talented pieces and keep them in place, okay? And I know that you might be saying, well, why, get rid of Beckham? It's because Beckham is not good for Eli Manning. But you keep DRC, you keep Cromartie. These are guys that can play. They can buy into a defense. You keep Jerry Reese. That's it for my Giants rant. I hope you guys go back and listen to the podcast again. And, a little program alert for the last minute. Going to be watching Brett Hundley very closely. Should have a film review on him up on Tuesday. Right now, for all you Niner fans that are in the comments, I am going to go ahead this afternoon, pick a time to go ahead and rewatch a lot of the Arizona game, talk about C.J. Beathard and the progress of the Niners, and go ahead and review a little bit of tape for Niner fans. But it's been a good podcast, 25 minutes long. I have another program announcement. Jet Central will be joining me tomorrow. My good friend Matt Schenkel will be joining me soon. You guys have been terrific. And just have a great day. Be on the lookout for more content. Get through your Mondays. Enjoy. Watch that unfold. Bye. We'll see you guys.